Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Benedict Construction. From custom homes to custom remodels to custom rooms. Check out this custom shower and custom kitchen, fully remodeled. I know Dan. I know his crews. I know their work. I use it every Sunday right here. I can tell you that they are the guys I call whenever I need anything done. They're the folks I would trust to tell you to call when you need custom work done in your home. Benedict Construction. All right, back with Bob, Mike, Josh, and Chuck. And over at the White People, we've never done this before. At the Benedict Construction Big Board, we have too much information for the board. Now, don't worry, you don't have to read all of that. I put it up there in case somebody tweets and says, well, how do we know that's the average? Well, take a screen grab. Look at your screen. And yes, I do get tweets like that. When you look at this, what you're seeing, that's the last 16 SEC division champions. For example, Florida 08, Alabama 08, Florida 09, Alabama 09, South Carolina 10. You get it on down the line. It's their attempts, completions, completion percentage, yards per attempt, touchdowns, interceptions, and quarterback rating for the season that they made it to the championship game. All right. Now, some of those are in orange. They're going to be a little harder to read. But the basic gist is, I think Tennessee kind of compares. You look at Tennessee's number down there at the bottom, the very bottom where it's curling. Tennessee's number kind of compares to a number of seasons in there, including the 08, 09 Alabama teams that were defense first, including the Jarrett Lee, Jordan Jefferson LSU team in 2011, including Nick Marshall and Auburn in 2013.
Yes.
That may be the best comparison, but the difference, and it's something we talked about in the first segment, Nick Marshall and Auburn, 1.5 yards per attempt more than Tennessee. That deep ball is what Tennessee's missing. And then Missouri with Matty Mock and last year's Florida rotation, also in the ballpark for Tennessee. So I think it shows that while Tennessee isn't all, that doesn't show that you're a lock to make it. You are in the ballpark. You can get there with a year like last year, as Bob said in the first segment. You don't even have to see great improvement to get there. But the trick, when you look at it, though, to me, they're doing the search for 25. That's their mantra this year, looking for the 25 points that tallied up to be their last 5 losses. I think it should be the search for 500. If they had 500 more yards passing than they did last year, same number of attempts and everything, you wind up with a yards per attempt that is equal to that SEC average. The 8.3, you jump from 7.0 to 8.3. You're right at that yardage number total in terms of where all these other teams have been. I think Tennessee needs to somehow find 500 more yards in their passing offense this year. That's not only Dobbs, that's your receivers making plays.
Yeah, I think all that data backs up what we said earlier. If you can get down the field more splash plays, explosiveness in your offense, you can do that. Also, I think it backs up in the East. Matty Mock, not great at quarterback. He was good enough. Last year, Florida wasn't great at quarterback. It was good enough and even bad by the end of the year. And so Tennessee, I think, can win the East with that.
If you break that down, John, what is that, 40 yards a game, more or less? Figure out what your record would have been with 40 yards a game sprinkled in here or there.
Well, here's the thing. Last year, Tennessee was 9th out of 14 teams in the SEC in passes of 20 yards or more. You're 9th. 9th in passes of 30 yards or more. 11th in passes of 40 yards or more. If you add 10 more 10-yard passes this year, 5 more 20-yard passes, 4 more 30-yard passes. We're not talking about a lot there.
No.
Suddenly you're at 400 yards, 450. Yeah. You're right in the ballpark with the average team in there in terms of passing attacks. I would feel much better. I think they can make Atlanta with the passing game they had last year. I'd feel much better about it if they got up there around the average of where those teams have been.
I think one of the things that comes into it is Dobbs has to play better, receivers have to play better. But you also have to have a little bit of a difference in your play calling, because if you'll remember, in some of the games when they had the lead in the second half and they got away from them, they quit throwing the football. Mm-hmm. Is that where you find that extra 40, 50 yards a ball game? Is because you don't go into the shell, you go ahead and try to put the game away, which then comes back to Dobbs and his accuracy, and you've got to be able to trust that. And that's where I think he has to improve the most.
Mike Strange, wrap us up.
I think that's where you're going to find it more than throwing the bomb, because the last couple of years, I think they aren't even close to
connecting
having a good day.
field.
Yeah, it's to me they're like wasted downs a lot of times.
You wonder if Preston Williams or Juwan Jennings, either one of those guys, could develop into that, because those two have so much promise. You wonder how they'll be. And with Jennings' athleticism, seems to me a guy that you hit him for 10 yards and he can take it 40.
Exactly.
Big yards after
Exactly.
Whereas Williams proved last year that he is a guy who can go downfield and make a big play. Of course, a couple of those were with Quentin Dormady throwing it to him. All right, when we come back, the SEC, terrible in basketball, continues to be terrible in basketball. Why? We'll discuss that. Got some numbers for you that will be eye-opening. Come on back on the Sports Source.